Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and tonight I want to talk to you all a little bit about I guess some hot questions about Warlock. Now that we're heading into, I think, week 3 or 4 of a Mirrordisil. We're going to be hitting on Iridol, the new staff from the dungeon, 9 staff compared to other weapons. We're going to be hitting on Trinket usage, what trinkets are good, why they're good, when to use them, why it changes so much, as well as hitting on stat weight and looking a little bit at some log review, I guess, post Destro and AF buff. Post Destro and AF buffs, because some things have changed a little bit, but in the end, Demo, still pretty good. Now, like always, if you want any week wars or add-ons to see in the video, links to Twitch and Discord down below are all for free for you guys. I am getting a little better. I'm still a little, I guess, congested. My voice is still a little bad, but it's coming back, so hopefully it's, I guess, a bit better than last video. And yeah, let's jump into it. So the first big question I've gotten a million times on stream is, where are secondary stats at for Demonology, Destro, and Affliction? We've seen a big shift towards crit and verse being played on most Warlocks, and that is also because, well, mainly because Demonology is the best spec. It is the best spec in the raid, it is the best spec in Mythic Plus, even post buffs. Now, Affliction does a lot of AoE in Mythic Plus. I ran some keys a few days ago. The AoE is wild, but it's still a bit lacking in the single target department due to playing Doom Blossom over Dread Touch and some other mechanical issues and stuff. But either way, Demo's being played in the higher end progression based settings in the raid, even post buff and all that stuff for Destro and AF. Now, even towards the end of Aberrus last year, crit and verse were gaining a good bit of value for me in single target for Demonology. I made this ring here actually last year in Aberrus to play on fights like Khazara and other single target fights where I wanted to push big damage in single target. Crit and verse were good for me. I played this last tier in Aberrus. I mean, this tier, eye levels increased, all that stuff as well, but one of the bigger reasons as to why, so looking at our new 2-piece and 4-piece, right? Now, looking at Aberrus tier, it would increase the damage of your, basically Grimoire Felguard, but when GFQ was active, it would increase all demons damage. So haste and mastery, I mean, they worked better with that. Haste, demons, haste, mastery damage, increase all kind of stuff, right? With your 4-piece. This tier, it is different. So this tier, it is basically just flat damage effects, right? So your 2-piece Doombrand explodes. Versatility makes Doombrand hit harder. Higher crit chance, higher chance of Doombrand critting. To a similar extent, your 4-piece, your Doomguard or Doomfiend or whatever. Higher verse, Doomfiend hits harder. Higher crit, it crits more often. So crit and verse affect your 2-piece and 4-piece this tier. I mean, comparative to last year being more pet-based, this is more just, hey, this is the new effect. It's going to pop. Being Doombrand, it might spawn a Doomfiend, which crit verse increase that value. Now, on top of that, another big reason here as well, your trinkets this tier, for every spec actually, Demo, Destro, AF, they're all playing it. This combination here, let me pull it up actually, let me find that. Blood Mallet has this trinket stems, all that, this is AF, but it is Naimu and Beloros. For AF, for Demonology, it is not Beloros and Naimu, and same thing basically in Destro. I think it's Beloros and Naimu. Yeah. Beloros and Naimu are very good. Now, they are 2 on-use trinkets in a sense. Beloros is sort of a on-use trinket. You hit the button, it does damage, right? It's not like it's not a stat-based trinket you're trying to use like a Balefire branch, right? So typically, I don't have a Naimu trinket. Whenever I get one, I'll pair Beloros with Naimu, and hitting this, whenever you hit one on-use trinket, if you're playing 2, it will incur a penalty on the other on-use trinket. So for example, I hit my Beloros over here in these mobs and watch my other trinket, the Balefire branch here, right? Pop it here, it incurs a penalty of 20 seconds. So you can't pop them together like you used to in the past. So Beloros is more like it does damage when you hit it, and you're good to go. However, when it comes to Naimu, it does damage as well. So both also being increased by verse and crit, can do more damage with verse, trinket does affect trinkets, and also has a higher chance to crit with more crit. But Naimu also gives some mastery, which means that you do want to pair Naimu with cooldowns like Tyrant or Infernal or Dark Lair, in this case Tyrant for Demonology, and go from there. So we'll get into trinket usage in a minute here, looking at cooldowns and when to use them, all that stuff, right? But those are some big reasons as well why crit and verse have gained a lot of ground and become better for Demonology. Now, there are some minor thresholds, I believe, for Demo around 20% and 27% haste. I don't know exactly where they are, to an actual T, but so the best way to tell for your own character is going to raidbots.com and not running stat weight sims. There's an option to run stat weight sims, but even if you run them, it will say, we don't recommend doing this. It is an outdated tool and top gear sims are better. You can run stat weight sims if you want to see where you're sitting stat weight wise, right? But a better way to do that is to take your character's information in game and go into a top gear sim. Copy this, go into here, Raid Bots, top gear sim, plug it all in, and then go down here, select whatever gear you want, no big deal. Check this box, replace gems and enchants, and check whatever you want to sim. Do you want to sim every combination of crit haste with haste verse, all this? What this does, this takes all the selected abilities here. What is going on here? This takes all the selected gems and enchants, whatever, and sims them all together in every combination. It will give you the highest overall output. This is why stat weight sims are out of date, because stat weight sims, I might pull up the sim here and say, okay, mastery and verse are best for me. So I'll swap this gem, from verse and haste to mastery and verse. When you do that, it offsets the value here in stat weight sims. So, haste could be, so the other stat that I took away could be better then, right? But top gear sims take all that into account, sim every combination in the world possible, and give you the highest output. So when I say sim yourself, I'm not saying it in a way I don't want to answer you kind of way. I'm saying it in a I don't know kind of way. I'm not a supercomputer. I'm a basic Florida man. But if you want to find out, you should run your own top gear sims. But as an example here, I did run stat weight sims for every spec that I have, with my own gear on, just to show. I am sitting at 22% versatility right here, and 30% should be a little higher, I believe, roughly. I don't know why I'm low crit right now, but either way, it should be like 36. I don't know why I'm low. I don't know what happened there, but regardless, you can see in my sim here, crit and verse are still pretty good for me for demonology. Mastery's a little better. I'm sort of low on mastery, but they're all pretty close, right? And they're all pretty close in general here. But if you go to like affliction, we're looking at master and haste still being much better, because I'm very low on that. I'm all crit verse for the most part, with demo gear on. And to a similar extent, Destra also wants haste mastery, crit and verse, not as bad compared to AF, but not great. So it is very important to run sims for your own character. It is not a I don't want to answer you kind of thing, or I'm blowing you off. Just literally, I cannot tell you, because everyone's gear varies. I have different gear that everybody else does. You might have a haste verse belt, you might have a mastery crit belt compared to me. But in the end, for those reasons listed, and just in general, demonology has gone much more towards crit and verse this tier. It is not made up. There's that. And yeah, and as far as crafting gear is concerned as well, I made a lariat and I made a Shadow Flame embellishment cloak. I also opened the neck this week from the raid, so I will likely make a Shadow Flame piece next week. Legs, maybe, I'm not really sure. Bracers, I'm not really sure. But so if you have a bad neck, Lariat is fine. You should also run sims for this on your own as well. But even with like 3 or 4 gems, Lariat was very good for me and close to Shadow Flame in single target sims. If you got a bad neck, making a Lariat is more than fine. If you have a good neck, I'd make double Shadow Flame on whatever pieces you want, being your cloth pieces, and go from there. But in the end, both combinations are fine. Time dilation bracers are okay as well. It's more of a group kind of benefit thing compared to like individual gains. There's some conflicting reports out there on how good time dilation is. But either way, can't go wrong with, Lariat or Shadow Flame. But crit and verse have indeed gained value for demonology in 10.2. Let's talk a little bit about trinkets and when to use them in varying settings. Okay, so before we get into the trinkets, I forgot. I want to talk about briefly weapons. So Iridol Dreambinder compared to a 489 staff. This is from Gnarlroot. I upgraded it fully. It is the max eye level that we can get currently. And look at some things there briefly. Now, I'm also playing Wafting Devotion on this staff. You should sim Wafting Devotion to Sophic Devotion for your character and see what's better. Wafting, with the lower haste that I have in things, Wafting gained ground from me this patch. I believe it's the haste enchant. Sim it, see what's better for you. Sophic could be better. Maybe it's Wafting, I'm not really sure. But either way, running your own sims for your own character will tell you what's best, because it varies between character to character. Now, so I have a 489 Staff of Incandescent Torment on from Gnarlroot. I've run sims comparing a 483 Dreambinder, which to be fair, I guess is like, 489 is the mythic drop, right? But I believe Heroic goes to 483. And Iridol. Now, 483 Iridol is an end of dungeon item with max upgrades, right? This is a full hero track. You can't get myth dungeon. You can't get a mythic, like a myth track Iridol from running the dungeon. It has to be in your Great Vault, right? Now, if I have this staff at 489 and I want to swap to an Iridol, say it drops in the dungeon, and I max it out at 483, it is a 1200 DPS loss. To a similar extent, if a Naimu staff dropped and went to 483 for whatever reason, it'd be about a 1k loss. But there's a 6 eye level disparity here between this staff and these two. So the effects, obviously, are pretty strong. Now, if I sim a 489 Iridol compared to a 489 Gnarlroot staff, Iridol is about 2.3k DPS higher. Typically on items like this, there's a lessening of main stat or secondary stat on it to sort of compensate for the on-use effect. Iridol does not have that. It is the same amount of intellect you can see here compared to every staff at the same eye level. Iridol is just good. Plus the added utility of having the ability just to use on low health mobs or, in clutch spots from time to time. The effect's very good. It crits for over 1 million, playing more verse as well. It's a very good effect, very strong item, and more crit and verse. Also, more damage-based effects play even more into this tier. Talking more about crit verse being good for demonology and honestly everywhere, right? And to a similar extent, Dreambinder also here. Damage effect also on use. They're both good. Haste Mastery versus Haste Verse. This is Crit Mastery. It could be a bit of a secondary stat thing, making Dreambinder better for me. I need some Haste and Mastery compared to everything else. But point being, a 489 Gnaw Root Staff is about 2.3k DPS worse than a 489 Iridol in Dreambinder. But this is from Mythic Naimu at 489. And the only way to get an Iridol at 489 is to get it from your Great Vault on the Myth track and upgrade it. The 483 version from the dungeon, upgraded to 483 max, for me is about 1200 DPS less. So if you're not Mythic raiding in Amyrtasil, this is a very similar option to a fully upgraded Gnaw Root Staff. And if you are raiding in Amyrtasil, this staff's a little better, but at the same time, Iridol is not that bad either. Now, getting into trinkets. So a lot of questions about these over the past few weeks on stream and everything. So we talked about it already. Your best trinkets at every spec are Naimu and Beloros, both double on use. When it comes to other options, Mirror of Fractured Tomorrows is pretty good. For Demo, I believe for Destro and Af as well. I know for Demo, or sorry, well, for both, 2 out of 3 specs at least. It's pretty good. Demo, Af being here, and Destro being, well, about there, right? Now, Balefire Branch, also a solid option in between. They've added the option to sim Balefire Branch on raid bots, right? Where you can add like a higher or lesser amount of, I guess, value to your branch, because branch sort of decays stacks, right? Gaining intellect when taking damage. It also decays over 20 seconds, right? So they've added this here for higher uptime or lower uptime. So it just depends what fight you're in, if you're taking damage a lot or not. But either way, I can run a comparison sim here, right? So I'll add in a mirror of Fracture Tomorrow. Just these are easy to farm when it comes to Mythic Plus and everything. I have a 480 Balefire on, haven't upgraded all the way, so we're gonna do a 480 mirror. Same thing, basically, no big deal. And we're going to run a comparison sim. This is going to be a 5-minute sim. Keep in mind, playing mirror, typically you pop mirror with your first tyrant, playing naked build, then 2-minute tyrant is no trinket. You hold mirror a minute to 4-minute mark and pop it with your third tyrant at the 4-minute mark. This is going to be a 5-minute sim here, right? So mirrors ahead by about 600-ish DPS, give or take. About what I expected, depending on what secondary stats you have at proccing and all that. However, if you run this sim again, I'll keep the results here. If you run this sim again at a 3-minute mark, things get a little interesting. So 3-minute mark, keep in mind, Balefire Branch is a 1.5-minute trinket. So you'll have it for every 2-minute tyrant. It lines up, every tyrant has a Balefire Branch in it, right? So in a 3-minute sim, you'll have one at 0 with tyrant on pole and one at 2 with your next tyrant. Mirror, you will have on pole, but you won't have again with second tyrant. So certain spots or settings where the encounters are shorter have, from what I've seen in sims, favor Balefire Branch to a certain extent because you get, a use every tyrant versus every other, right? So you can see here as well, Branch is favored by about 2k DPS. So one thing that I want to hit on here, fight duration is exceptionally important when it comes to trinkets this tier. Now, Balefire and Mirror are your 2 best options from like Mythic Plus and all that. Naimu is in the end much better. If I run a Naimu sim here, I'll gain a lot. Let me just run the sim again briefly. I'll gain I'll gain a good bit of DPS. Let me run this again. Naimu, put this here. 3 times the charm. We'll do Mirror, it's already there, and we will do a Naimu. We'll just do 480. I don't even know if we can get it at 480, but whatever. 480. Naimu and Beloros are your best trinket combos, whatever. And that's basically it. Cut and dry for every spec, right? Now, we talked about it already. They're both on use. Beloros, mostly just a damage-based effect. You pop it, do damage, but it will incur that penalty whenever you pop Beloros, putting your other on-use trinket on cooldown for 20 seconds, which poses some problems when you're opening up on pole, trying a tyrant, and get that Naimu stat increase with your tyrant out, right? But you can see here in the sim, Naimu is still ahead by about 2k DPS. I don't know why I simmed it twice, but that's fine either way. It's ahead by a good bit over Balefire Branch and Mirror. Now, getting into, this is a good example here, getting into some logs to show usage of these trinkets, right? It is, if you want to essentially just be lazy with it and open up without much knowledge about the fight duration, whatever, I would pop your Beloros on pole and then pop your Naimu after your Tyrant. You want to cast Summon Demonic Tyrant and then pop Naimu as close to humanly possible after your Summon Demonic Tyrant cast. Might have to wait a few seconds depending how it goes, give or take. But the thing is, you don't want to lose a Baloros cast over the course of a fight, because Baloros hits for 1.82 million damage, depending on how much verse you have and how big it is and everything else, right? So a good example here, we're going to take this rank 1 parse from Igira, and we're going to look at it. So we're going to look at this person's cast, right? And he's playing both Balefire Branch and Naimu. I looked at it already, just as far as ahead, but I know what happens here sequencing-wise. So Igira is a single target fight, right? Barring the spears spawn. Now keep in mind, Baloros gains more value the more targets you hit, up to 5. So in a single target fight, duration here being 514, in a pure single target fight like Volcaros, typically, I mean, you're getting that single target patchwork cleave from Baloros, but on Igira, you have spear spawning about half minute into the fight. So what happens here, we can see there's a fast Tyrant on pull, and Naimu is popped right after Tyrant, being your first on-use trinket, right? No issue here. The fight duration also 519. Keep in mind, Baloros 2-minute cooldown. So if you go, whether you go Baloros on pull, it would go 0-2-4, so you get 3 uses. Or if you go Baloros at, half minute into the fight, it go 30, 230, 430. You still get 3 uses. So you have some leeway there on a 514 kill. So what happens here, if this is possible, in a more optimized setting, you want to pop your Naimu right after your Tyrant for the damage effect, but also just getting that mastery effect with Tyrant with the pets out and all that. So Tyrant is popped here. Here's Naimu being popped first on pull. And then if you scroll down a bit here, Solar Maelstrom is going to be Baloros being popped at 33, right when I believe second set of spear spawns. You can even see an implosion being cast here. He's cleaving onto the spears with Baloros and all that, popping Naimu first and then popping Baloros later on. Once again, this is a 5-10 kill, so there's no worry about, if the boss dies at, let's say he popped it at 30 here. If the boss dies at, 410, I'm going to lose a third cast. He knows he's getting a third cast regardless. No big deal. Fight duration, very, very important when using double unused trinkets. Now, shifting gears here, let's go to Volcaros. Volcaros, let's find one here, being a 355 kill. Very fast kill of Volcaros, playing Baloros and playing Naimu. This is from Robin. Rank 3 here. I haven't seen this log, but I'm assuming he did it properly. We'll take a look here. Well, properly. I mean, things change and vary. It's hard to figure out exact fight duration and things, right? But cast events, yes, great example. So he pops Baloros on pull here. I'm assuming he assumed this fight would go a bit longer, about 405, 406. He pops it on pull at 2, so it goes basically 2, then 202. And if he got a third usage in, it would be 402. He's trying to squeeze in a third usage of his Solar Maelstrom Baloros before the fight dies. It's a pretty fast kill time, but he knows it's going to be tight on kill time. So you can't go Tyrant and Naimu first. You have to go Maelstrom, Baloros, whatever first, and then you just Tyrant here, you Naimu about here. So Tyrant's at 13, you Naimu at 23. It is what it is. There's some coverage here on Tyrant a little bit, but keep in mind, Naimu is also just a damage trinket as well. It does damage, so you get some coverage there, but if you're not trying to squeeze in a Maelstrom cast, if you're not going to lose a cast, it's better to Naimu a Tyrant early on, like, Tyrant Naimu here, and then Maelstrom later on, versus going Maelstrom on pull, and then Naimuing here. But very, very important, it's fight duration. So let me try and find another one here roughly. Let's see if we can find a longer kill. 433, let's see what else we can find here. Maybe like, this might be okay. I'm not sure. On a longer pull, let's take a 5-minute pull. If Volcaros was 5 minutes, I would follow suit like we did here on Igira. I know I can go Tyrant with Naimu on pull, for example. Buffs Tyrant, damage from Naimu Trinket, popped early on, no big deal. And then I could go, once again, Maelstrom at half a minute into the pull, and it would go 33 seconds into the fight, then 230 and 430, and the boss dies at 5. You're not getting a fourth Maelstrom. There's leeway. It's no big deal. But if you're in a setting where it's going to be tight, or you think, okay, my kill last week was 419, which basically, if he was playing one, basically barely gives enough room for that third Baloros cast, and you're more geared this week, I would definitely opt to go Baloros on pull at 2 or 3 seconds into the fight, Baloros at 203, and Baloros at 403, and be like, you know what, if the fight runs long or whatever, so be it, but I'm playing on the side of caution. I want to get the max amount of Baloros casts in as possible. And if not, if there's leeway, once again, then yeah, you pop your Naimu with your Tyrant and pop Baloros at 30. whenever it comes off cooldown. But that is the confusing part about double on use, about Baloros and 9U being paired together. It is fight dependent. If you don't care about that and just want to be lazy about it or whatever, which is fine, I feel you, pop Baloros on pull and pop 9U later on with Tyrant. And go for it. That's fine. But 9U is a 2-minute cooldown. So you're going to have 9U basically every Tyrant playing the naked Tyrant build, being a 2-minute cooldown. You hold your Tyrant for Grimoire. And that's that. If you want to be lazy with it, Baloros on pull every time, Baloros on cooldown, and you're good to go. But if you want to like min-max things, you have to look at fight duration. You have to look at, okay, Igira, for example, are ad spawning. Even like Laredar, for example. Some are holding Baloros for ads. You're going to hold Baloros for ads. How does that change things in the fight? Because ads spawn at like 20. So that'd be like 20, 220, 420, and 620. What the fight dies at 605. You want to pop it on pull instead to get 4 uses versus 3. Baloros, it's easy to hit a basic on-use button just to pump damage, but if you want to min-max it, fight duration, fight structure, the damage profile that you have, it changes where you pop Baloros a lot. So there's not an easy answer here because every guild rates differently. Everybody kills bosses faster and slower, but those are the general rules you want to follow playing Baloros and X on use Trinket, whether it's like Baloros and 9U, Baloros and Balefire, Baloros and Mirror. If you're playing a Mirror, it'll basically be popped every, other Tyrant. So you pop Mirror with Tyrant on pull and pop Tyrant at 4 with Tyrant at 4, right? So it varies a lot. Depends what you're doing. I wish there's a better answer to give you guys, but there's really not. It just, if you want to be lazy with it, pop it on pull, whatever. But if you want to min-max it in things, there's more that has to go into it thought-wise, right? Also, not to mention, if you're in a prog setting, do you want to hold it for the first add-on 9U, where you're holding for it on Smolderon with the damage amps? It's a fun trinket. I enjoy it a lot, but at the same time, it has become a little complicated with kill times getting faster and prog settings and all of that. But I am playing Baloros and Balefire Mythic Plus, or Baloros and 9U if you get it, and Baloros and Mythic Plus feels great. Pop it, blow everything up, feels good. Cool trinket, I like it a lot, and hopefully I obtain a 9U very soon. So thanks for watching, guys. That wraps it up. Hopefully it answered the questions you might have had about stat weights, or sims, or trinkets, or weapons, or whatever you might have had for the past few weeks. I've been getting asked a lot of questions about it on stream, and hopefully this helped clarify a little bit. I was going to do a log review, briefly, like post-buff and all that stuff in this video as well, but it's running a little long. I'll do it in the video tomorrow or the next day, looking at like post-buff Vesture AF. Still not great, but there's some interesting builds that are emerging. Plus, Naked Tyrant Demonology has like 4 different builds you play. Some with sack souls, some with partial sack souls, some with no sack souls, single target cleaves. I want to hit on those and I guess clarify a bit where they're played, why they're played, and well, all of that. Like always, weak orders or add-ons down below if you want them. Links to Twitch and Discord with all for free for you guys. And also at the same time, before we end the video, I want to give one massive shout out to my patrons before we end it. Like always, for all support on Patreon, you guys, thank you a million times. I really appreciate it. It allows me to keep doing what I'm doing for you guys, and I just, I really appreciate all the support. I think that, so after the Demon Hunter rogue nerfs on today, Demonology is likely the best range spec in the game. If you put aside like Hunter being range, I don't really consider Hunter or BM like a range spec. They're so busted when it comes to everything being instant cast. And jokes aside, I mean, they are, but it's sort of a weird, like, they are, but are they really? Obviously you have AUG, which is very good as well, buffing the best specs in the game. So there's that as well, but Demonology looks pretty solid when it comes to being a range caster. Now, I don't think it's still a melee tier. Melee is still better this tier. But when it comes to casters, Demo's up there. It's close to being meta M+, if not meta M+, post nerfs. And when it comes to the raid, I mean, you only saw 1 Warlock this entire raid tier on most fights. You might see a couple on Tindral now. Maybe Firak could even be a two lock fight depending how things go. But I mean, that's the state of range this tier. It is a melee tier. Tuning has been all over the place. This upcoming tuning helps in a few days, but there might need to be more. And also, please nerf Firak and Tindral. I don't want to spend 5 months progging those bosses. So we'll see where it goes. Other things, thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton. And I will catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.